Good evening, I'm Kip Atley from the Calvert Concept. Have the honor of being the chairman of that organization. And I'd like to welcome you all and everyone online and everyone who will watch the videos after tonight to this evening. Catherine Marsh with the Women's Commission will introduce our distinguished guest speaker, but thank you, Kaula, for being here tonight. Really appreciate it. I want to spend a few seconds talking about C4, the Calvert concept. Maybe all that was need to be said is that its purpose is to level the playing field for people who may not have had an equal opportunity towards financial stability, particularly and social advantages that can come with it. C4 helps people qualify for home business ownership as a means of creating equity. And that help is in the form of thousands of dollars per year per individual and in contacts and resources that allow people to move from a shaky financial situation to one that a mortgage company welcomed for a loan home or a business, and that can create equity for generations. So that's what C4 is about. Tonight is an important part of that process where we all get to learn more about what the experts call becoming financially literate, gaining the power of the tools to take advantage of the opportunities that are out there for all of us. So thank you for being here tonight. It's a pleasure. Catherine?
Good evening. My name is Catherine Marsh. I'm here on behalf of the Calvert County Commission for Women. The Commission for Women has one job, and that is to be a clearinghouse for issues for women and girls in the county. What is not being addressed? What do we need more information on? And how can we help get the concern of women and girls in the county to our Calvert County commissioners? For the last 2 years, we've been partnering with the Calvert County Library and C4 to bring financial literacy serious to the county. We know financial independence is a top issue for women and young girls. Thrilled to be able to introduce Kaula Jacks tonight. She is our guest speaker, a financial educator, a youth advocate, and a community leader with a passion for helping individuals and families build stronger futures. Kaula was born and raised in Calvert County, and after college, we're thrilled that she came back to build her career here and to help shape the young minds of the children in the community that I'm going to talk about in just a little bit. But in her professional life in 2021, Kaula became a licensed in insurance and investments and serves as regional vice president, leading a team of licensed financial professionals as a financial advisor, overseeing more than 1.3 million client assets. She's passionate about making financial education accessible and empowering families to reduce debt and protect their income and grow wealth. She also founded Kids Funds, which is a financial literacy program in the county specifically designed to introduce children ages 5 to 15 to the principles of earning, saving, and investing for tomorrow and planning for the future. There was nobody better we could think to come and talk on investing from 16 to 65 plus than Kaula with all of her experience.
It just started.
She wants to tailor this as much as she can to the individuals who are here today, as well as knowing for the video that's going to be watched. So if you are a young person who is just starting a job and wants to know how to make your income grow, please put that in the chat if you're online. If you are working a job now in your young 20s or 30s and wanting to know how much of my paycheck to really invest so that I can retire earlier than my parents did, put that in the chat. Or like Kaula here in person. And if you are here sitting here going, I'm 50, I'm 60, I'm hoping to retire, and Social Security is not looking great for me, so give me some tips. Make sure Kaula knows she really wants to be able to tailor this as much as she can to everyone who's here today. Isabella from the library will be monitoring the chat, so please feel free to put any questions or comments in there so that Kaula can really help answer those questions. Kaula, turn it over to you.
All right.
so much. So happy to be here. Just want to thank everybody that made this happen, and then everybody that's joined today. I wish I could see your faces, but definitely interact in the chat and be free to communicate with me here as well as questions. As really, it's my intention to make sure that I'm being transparent, that you can apply the information that we talked about today, and that and if you know anything about me, if maybe this is your first time meeting me, I'm all about transformation, right? Transformation. What I mean by transformation, transformation is that we have conversation and communication that gives you to take action or change. So many times I've even found myself, and maybe you found yourself taking that much information, but never using the information, never allow the information to actually apply to your life. So tonight I'm going to encourage you and vote for you not to just be a hearer of the information that I'm going to be speaking about, but a doer, somebody that's going to be taking action. And then you also have an opportunity to inquire about your specific situation. In a later time, either by scheduling, a quick phone call with me or whatever that looks like for you. So we're going to jump into a little education. But before that, I do want to take some questions. I want to make this valuable for the people who made it valuable to spend your next hour with me. So if you have any questions, you have any concerns as far as it comes to investing, income, really anything financial, put that in the chat or you can ask your question. I just want to jot it down so I can make, when we go over this information, I can tailor it to you. So we'll spend some time. Anybody in the room have any questions, you can put that out, or concerns, anything you really want me to cover today, put that in the chat. Isabel will let me know, as well as I can hear those here. And Isabel, you can let me know as they come.
Okay.
Want to get maybe a few things before I start touching it. As we go through this.
Jim, I ask you,
For sure.
expressing a great concern.
Yes.
I know that both governments and corporations seem to be trending towards the use of investing funds rather than providing people with a retirement income themselves. The idea is that if people are provided the opportunity to little invest and then convert to retirement income. I'm very skeptical of the practicality.
Okay.
Many people are not structured to actually put aside the money that implies with people's. And so if you can address as we go along, the practical feasibility of individuals responding to share from pensions to in private investment funds.
Okay, yeah, that's good. And so question concerning the chat is how people can really one take advantage but also adapt to pensions, social security going away, something that's been a part of the three stools since forever, to individual, 401ks, IRAs, and things of that nature, to where they're becoming more responsible for their own retirement. So we'll definitely see about that as well.
And on that note, I kind of have a follow-up question. If we have, $20 or $100, left over from a paycheck for a month to invest, is it better to do that through like a Roth IRA or to buy and sell stocks kind of individually and separately on your own?
Okay. So the question was, if we have an extra $50 or so, and want to invest, is it better to invest in just I don't think they hear it around my friend. Would it be better to invest in individual stocks or an IRA? Okay. And I'm gonna actually touch on both of those questions real quick before we continue. Any questions in the chat? Versus. Okay, cool. So let's touch on these two things. So
government assistance, we all know, we hear it in the headlines all the time. We know that Social Security, estimated by 2032, that Social Security is going to pay about 83 cents on the dollar compared to what it's paying now. So, I tell people if you're over 50, you can count on probably some Social Security. But if you're under 50, I would just have it be icing on the cake. Okay, so how do we adjust to this? Well, number one is definitely utilizing your work 401ks, right? You have to take advantage of them if, this is a big if, and this is very, very important for everybody, if they are matching. Okay? If they are matching, take advantage of your employer sponsored plan, right? If they are not matching, and this kind of goes into the second question about the Roth IRAs, if they are not matching, it is better to put that money into a Roth IRA. Okay? So when it comes to us being disciplined enough, discipline is one of the things I'm going to be talking about when it comes to money. Money is emotional. People think it's about math and this and that. Money is very emotional, right? So when it comes, discipline is a very emotional thing. I can agree. And so when it comes to the discipline, what I recommend is that someone like any plan that I set up for anybody is automatic and it's systematic, meaning my clients don't have to think about it. Because when we have to think about it, and we're looking at our money, and we're having to decide each month how much we're going to spend, and we get to have a choice every single time. We might not choose to save as much as we said we would at the beginning of the month, right? And so when it's automatic and systematic, just like when it comes out of your paycheck, you can get that. You can set those things up for yourself with your individual retirements as well, right? And so if you are deciding to, do it on your own, and as far as investing and things like that, make sure that it's systematic and automatic, right? Choose the days that you want it to come out, just like work, right? Set it up just like work, where it comes out of your account, not you having to choose every single time. Because all the more choices we have to make, or when we're choosing stocks, and that's not what we do. We tend to procrastinate, right? We tend to not make consistent, disciplined decisions, right? So the biggest part about gaining wealth and investing is to be consistent and be disciplined over time, right? And so the thing is that so just making sure I'm answering this question, government versus individual. Just like the government was systematic in taking Social Security out of your check, systematic in taking your 401k for your BTSP money out of your check, you want to create something that mimics that same system. Not picking and choosing on a monthly basis how much you're going to put in, but think about the percentage of your check, just like take the percentage. Think about a flat rate as well that you're going to every month put in. Okay, very, very important. With the second question, if I have some money left over, do I put it in a Roth IRA or individual stocks? Okay, this is a really good question, because the first thing when it comes to this question is that one of the things, I didn't say too much about me, but I think the bio is really good. Excuse me if this isn't appropriate. I'm a believer, right? And so first thing we do, I always say we would do is tithe, if that's what you believe in, right? But if not, the first thing you do is pay yourself, right? So we never want to be in a position where we're at the end of our money and then save it. We want to do that up front. We also don't want to be in a position, I was talking to one of my clients today, to put any company before we pay ourselves. So many times we pay our bills first, we pay our debts first, we pay all of these corporations and companies that have trillions of dollars first before we pay our own self. So when we get our paycheck, right, we want to take care of our responsibilities, even if it is just $25, right? Pay yourself first before you're going to pay the credit cards and bills. Because guess what? When something happens to you, those companies are going to take care of your family. Those companies are going to be there to support you. BGE or electric, yeah. I mean, I know you need lights, but are they going to come in and help you when you have 4 flat tires or you need a new car? No, that's our discipline and saving and us putting that first. I hope that makes sense, right? So first we want to save first. Second thing, a Roth IRA is just like a 401k or anything, is just all that does, it's just a word that says how taxes are being used, right? It's just a umbrella, right? It's an umbrella, it's a folder, right? And so whether a Roth IRA or individual stocks, well, you can the answer is Roth IRA 100%. If you have matched your employer match, the next step is the Roth IRA, right? If you after you match your employer's match, the next step is the Roth IRA. Now, what do you put in the Roth IRA? You can put individual stocks in the Roth IRA because the Roth IRA by itself, in its essence, is not an investment. You have to put investments in the Roth IRA, right? Just like a trust. You can open a trust and not fund it. Therefore, there's nothing in the trust. It's not worth anything if you don't put anything in it, right? Does that make sense? So you can use individual stocks. The benefits of individual stocks or the downside of individual stocks, especially if you're only using a little bit of money, is a lot of times you have to buy stocks as a whole, right? And so then you have to choose, and then
So they're talking about buying stock.
what I recommend
being
as an
beneficial.
investor, the first thing that I use with people, I'll tell you guys to use
Yeah.
right? Because
I mean, it's kind of hard
having the
right now.
knowledge of individual stocks to be diversified, to be
trying to understand what stocks are, what
to
this
make
is.
sure all the fees
Yeah.
and this,
Separate research
it's a
what their
lot
stock codes are.
that goes into individual stocks.
So I get ready to
Also,
say.
now you created business risk. If Apple goes down and your stocks are in Apple and Apple only, now that's where people talk negatively about the stock market because they weren't diversified. Right?
Their pay looks fucking good.
I
Shit, they
like
fucking
to
cap
start
off.
with mutual funds
Isn't that crazy?
as a good starting point. And we'll talk about it here in a second because they're already diversified.
Her hair was the frizziest too, so the fact that it got laid down like that.
Yes, there's fees, but
Well,
I'd rather
those
take a
turns
little
out
bit of
great.
fees to make sure to pay the people that aren't professionals at doing that, didn't have to worry in my mind.
Hard to see, you know.
Thinking I'm making the wrong decision, getting out,
Right.
going in, and not knowing. Right? So starting with mutual funds, and
Definitely
then
got
once you
longer
build
though.
up a portfolio, and once you
From
build up some
Middle. The biggest part
some
too.
money, then you can start getting
Oh,
into
God.
some individual stocks and start thinking about other companies you want to invest in and things like that. Right? I want to tell you guys my philosophy and where I'm coming from is my philosophy is setting a solid foundation first. Right? Everything I'm speaking from is from setting a solid foundation first. I believe that so everything that I'm coming from is simple foundational things that I don't believe. Well, it's not even I don't believe. Statistically, Americans don't have $1,000 saved, right? Over 60% of them, right, don't have $1,000 saved. So it sounds like, as a whole, America needs a foundation, right? And so with the age of information, I think it's getting really complex, and we're trying to build a house starting with the roof when we don't have a solid foundation with our finances, right? Especially as we talk about 16, for my 16-year-olds, right? But even so much as I met with a 67-year-old lady on Saturday who's been working with a financial person for over 30, 40 years, right? And I found so many gaps in her plan. And she just came to me, she really didn't even want me to do that. But I said, I'm not going to help you if I can't look at the whole thing, because the whole thing matters. I found so many gaps in her plan, and she's 67. But guess what? There's still something, it's not too late for her either. There's things that we can do for her right now to change the trajectory of how long that money's going to last for her. We can't do anything about the last 30, 40 years, but we can do something now to change how she can live in her retirement. And so the thing I'll say about that, when you already have been in the game for a little bit, you still got to stay open
Like a
to
sewing class too.
change and how
You're like a sewing class too.
created, or well, maybe isn't massive for yourself. Does that make sense? One of the biggest mistakes I see young and all ages make is not being open to improvement, being stuck at, I set this up years ago and I'm not moving. Well, I always recommend, I say, I understand, but if there could be an improvement, if you could save more money on fees or make more money performance. If there's something better, wouldn't you want to know? And I invite everybody to stay open to that, right? I, even as a professional, stay open to it, that I never get too committed to one thing, or that my first plan is the only plan and never change it or never make adjustments. That makes sense? That answered the question, and I'll go more into it here in this. So I'm gonna go through this presentation, and then I'm gonna talk about some specific, I'm gonna talk about minor funds, since 16 is you would qualify for a minor account. I'm gonna talk about two different minor accounts. I'm gonna talk about the power of annuities. And a lot of people have maybe have heard a lot of different things about annuities. I love annuities. I think they're wonderful, right? When you really get down to it and recognize that not all annuities are made the same. And then I'm also going to be talking about the Roth IRA versus your employer plan, which we talked about a little bit, and some managed accounts. So I don't know if you're in any type of investment world, you hear about SMAs and managed accounts and things like that. And so I'll be talking about those things too. So let's get through it. Hopefully it's been valuable for you so far. You can click to the next slide, Isabel. So this slide is simple, right? When we're talking about 16 to 65, it doesn't matter how old you are. A lot of people are still in the debt cycle. A lot of people are still overspending. A lot of people are still in credit card debt. A lot of people are still living paycheck to paycheck, no matter what their age are. A lot of people, the majority of people that are retired now are either working a part-time job or only depending on Social Security. This is the state of where we're at. And so when our finances are controlling our every decision, right? How do we get to the cash cycle? That's what we're talking about today. That's why you came here today. Where your debt's not taking half of your paycheck or more. Where you can actually pay with cash when an emergency happens versus continuously putting it on a credit card or borrowing from family and going into that cycle where you can actually look and have $10,000 in an emergency fund, $25,000, $30,000, $50,000 in investments where you can spend on your lifestyle, or if you get laid off of work. I have clients that got ripped from the government, great government paying jobs that they were working 20 some years. They wake up and their job's gone. Did they prepare for that with their investments? Not retirement, because they're too young to use the retirement money. What happens when you're too young to use your retirement money, but kind of old enough to have to adjust to that transition of what do I do next? Because you were let go or ripped from your job, right? So we want to move from the debt cycle into the cash cycle. Next slide. Get a choice. All right, so first thing you want to do is learn how to invest. That's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about a little bit about paying off debt and then protecting your income. So I'm going to cover protecting your income just a little bit right now because it's not the topic of concern, but it is very important, okay? So when I talk about protecting your income, right, I'm talking about income protection through life insurance, okay? So a lot of people think, there's two financial risks in life. There's two major risks when it comes to finances: dying too soon or living too long. More people are scared to outlive their money than they are of dying. That is the reality of America today, right? And also the other risk is leaving a family behind, right? And your income was significant impact to that family, right? Or leaving a family behind, intending to have an inheritance, but you didn't prioritize it and put it into place. Okay? So the way that I look at life insurance as a placeholder, a lot of people don't look at it like this, but this is what my philosophy is and what I believe that we should look at it like. And the numbers make sense, right? This is not just belief, this is how the numbers work. I believe life insurance is to be rented for a period of time, right? So, for example, I have $1 million in life insurance, over $1 million in life insurance, right? Why? Because right now I have $1 million, vision for my family and legacy that I want. But as my investments grow and I start to own assets, my need for that $1 million decreases because I have now built up assets. Does that make sense? So if I have $0 today, and I'm looking at a $1 million future, if I get in a car crash today on the way home and I don't make it, I want my family to have that $1 million. And if I make it to 65 or 55, because I'll have it before then, but when I make it to that age of getting it, I want to have my family to have it. So either way, whether I die today or I live a long life, I'm guaranteeing $1 million for me and my family. Does that make sense? So as I build towards that insurance that I've been paying and renting, my need for that insurance decreases. So rent it, but we don't need to depend on it our whole lives. Once we have the money that we need to take care of ourselves, pay our final expenses, pass it on to our family, we wouldn't have a need for that life insurance. Hopefully that makes sense, because that's a huge thing. I could spend a lot of time talking about that because it's such a, like, I could spend so much time talking about it. I know we don't like to talk about it, but it's really a great investment because it covers your investment now. You don't own your house right now, but if you have that life insurance, that house is actually an investment if it can cover that home. And then you can actually own and pass that home down.
Would you keep the life insurance indefinitely, or would you eventually turn it off?
Question was, would you keep the life insurance indefinitely or eventually turn it off? We would turn it off. Or we would be turn off optional, because you might have such a vision, where you want as much money to go to your family as possible. So it's turn off optional to where you don't, it's the difference between wanting life insurance and needing life insurance. I want to put my clients in a place where they no longer need it, but if they want to keep paying for it, they can, right? Does that make sense? So eventually most people, we gotta learn, the companies that have, the whole life companies are making bank off people that are paying life insurance for their whole life, right?
So are you recommending term is what people should start with?
That's exactly what I'm recommending. So the question was, am I recommending term, what people should always have? If you can qualify for term life insurance, you should have it, because you're going to get the most amount of coverage for the least amount of money. Now, some people can't qualify for term because they wait too long or whatever the case may be. Then you should get a basic whole life policy, not an IUL, right? Not a UL or VL, these things that are being sold and you're paying like $200 to $500 into it. A basic policy, and then you can now pay $50 into your borrow policy and pay the rest of that $450 into an actual investment that your family owns, right? Because in a whole life policy, the reason why you can borrow from it is because it's not yours. So when you pass away, your family does not get that cash value virtually ever. And that's crazy to me. So I paid for two things my whole life and my family only gets one of those things. I either take all the cash value out or I take all the life insurance out, but virtually never do I get both. But I've been paying for both. It just doesn't add up to me, right? The numbers, like I said, the numbers don't add up. So I recommend term and invest the rest, right? And you can read all the books there's been millions of books written about it. We can talk about it more. So let's go to the next slide. So the 3 fundamental accounts. Most people have all their money in the bank, sitting in the bank, not earning anything. Most people don't have their savings separated, right? To where they know for each thing that they want to do, they know where to go to take that money out. That's a problem, because if I'm vacationing on my emergency money, when I get back from vacation and my basement's flooded, well, I just used all my emergency money on vacation, right? And so to separate our money, having an emergency fund, having a short-term savings, having a long-term savings, when we separate the money, not only do we not dip into the wrong buckets, but each of these buckets have different goals and different time horizons, right? See, my emergency money, when do we need that? We need that today. So that money, we can't put that money and invest it very, aggressively. but if we want it to be gaining more than 0.01% at your bank, right? So we put that money into a high yield savings or a money market. And please don't get confused about the name high yield savings. It's like 3% on average, right? But 3% is better than 0.01%, right, at the bank. So your money on average should be growing in a savings account, your emergency fund at 3%, right? 4% if you can get it. And so that money needs to be available tomorrow for an emergency, right? And we use that money for emergencies. Then we're going to have a short-term account. That account is going to be invested at a moderate risk level, right? Because we want it to gain, 5 to 7, maybe 8% over the next 3 to 5 to 7 years. This is the account where you save for your house. This is the account where you save for a new car. This is the account that you pull out for vacation. This is the account that you use when you get hurt at work and can't go to work, or you get laid off and you're off work, but this is the account that you pull from, right? This is the account that you want to be that, 6 times your income, right? 30, 50,000, right? Whatever that is. Some people do it by income. You can do it by expenses. It's really, it's not too big of a, it seems to be not too big of a gap. But that account is invested, but not invested as aggressively as the long-term wealth building account. So we all know what those are. So those are our those are our IRAs, right? No one so there's a traditional IRA and a Roth IRA. I'll talk about the difference. There's your 401ks, 403bs, TSPs. All of those accounts work exactly the same. The only reason they have different names is because they're for different sectors of work, right? So if you work for the government, you get something. If you work for the school system, you get something. If you work for, churches, they're just different. They all work the same. They just have different names based on the employer that they're providing for. So when it comes to your wealth building account, you want to take advantage of your employer sponsored plan. What? If they match, right? Why? Because that match is 100% gain. It's free money, right? There's 3 different types of retirement money, right? There's free money, which is the money that your employer matches. There's tax-free money, which is in your Roth IRA, right? And then there's tax money, which is everything outside of the match in your Roth IRA, right? And what the biggest mistake people are making now with their wealth accounts is that, just like the lady I was speaking to you about, I don't know how long she was doing it, but her job matched 5%. And this, we have the right mindset. I get it. It's just not, the money's not being put in the right place. So if you're here today or you're listening online, you got to remember I said transformation. Don't let you hear this and not change something, right? She was putting in, her job was matching 5%. She was putting in 15%. It's amazing. She has the right mindset. What does she think? She wants to save more. I want her to save more too, but that 10% would be better off in a Roth IRA, because that Roth IRA is going to pay her tax-free income in retirement, because we got to recognize this when it comes to our wealth. I don't care if you're 16 and you got a minor Roth IRA, or you have minor accounts, or you're a big girl, big boy, right? Retirement savings does not equal retirement income. Retirement savings does not equal retirement income unless it's in a Roth IRA. Kayla, what do you mean by that? If you have $200,000 in a 401k, you don't have $200,000 in income, because that money has to be taxed still. The money you put in hasn't been taxed, and the money that's grown in that account over the years hasn't been taxed. And on the way out, it's getting taxed. Right? So retirement savings does not equal retirement income. But if you pay the taxes now and you put that money in a Roth IRA, you've already paid the taxes on that money. That money will never be taxed again. And that's a big deal, because $200,000 in a Roth IRA is $200,000 in retirement income, which is why we save. Right? Go ahead.
So I'm looking at this.
Mind blown.
Right, well, I'm going with, this is just, looking at this, these three accounts are savings accounts.
Yes, the 3 accounts are savings accounts.
So separate and apart from our checking account where bills come in, bills go out.
Mhm.
So oftentimes thought process is keep a cushion in your checking account, kind of almost as an emergency account. Is your recommendation that we don't build a cushion in the checking and instead diversify it all into these 3 separate retirement accounts instead?
Good question. So am I saying don't go to, so the checking, we have a checking account plus we have these 3 savings accounts. Am I saying not to have a cushion in the checking account, or am I saying to have a cushion in the checking account? I believe our checking account should be for incoming and outcoming, like that's where you're paying your bills out of. Like money, that's where I have enough money in my checking account for my bills to come out and not overdraft, right? Outside of that, I'm putting my next pocket of money that I'm putting in is earning at least 3%. So if your checking account isn't earning 3%, then your money shouldn't sit there, right? So that's what I'm saying. Because guess what? If the money is not earning money, and we see gas prices changing, we see inflation doing its thing, right? If your money's not earning money, it's not keeping up pace. $5 doesn't buy. When I was a kid, my mom gave me $5. I get anything I wanted from McDonald's. Anything. Today, my best bet is a large fry. $5. Right? So if our money's not working at least at keeping up with the pace of inflation, our purchasing power is decreasing. And that's where a lot of retirees, even with pensions, are losing right now because their pension, even sometimes with a COLA, income adjustment over the time, still doesn't keep up with inflation and the cost of living. So that's our number one goal after we're paying our bills, is to at least keep up with the cost of living by having that first account in an interest earning account at 3%, 3 to 4%. Did that make sense? That answer your question? Yeah, so yeah, not keeping money in the checking account, not keeping money in a 0.00 or even a 1% savings account or 2% savings account. Why? Because we know that we have free accounts that we can earn 3 to 4% in. So we want to use those accounts. Okay. I guess I'll talk about, hopefully this is valuable. I'm making sure I'm looking at my time right now. Let's go to the next slide. I'll make sure I go into deeper. So as we save, and this is this really all applies to everybody, because a lot of times, I've sat with a lot of people, you guys, and sometimes the 50-year-old isn't in a different spot than the 16-year-old. Okay? So, this applies to everybody on how are we attacking our savings. So many people want to do things one by one. Like right now, I'm kind of like going back and forth with someone because she wants to, and this is the big thing, she wants to pay her credit cards off first before she starts saving. Right? A lot of people want to do that. I'll save and invest when I'm debt free, when my credit cards are paid off. I'm just gonna save for this right now, and I'll save for retirement later because I'm young. Right? No, right? We have to save we have to put money everywhere, even if it's just $25. Like my minimum program I'd set up for somebody. Let's put $25 worth of life insurance. Put $25 a month in your emergency fund, $25 in your short term, and $25 in your retirement. That's a $100 plan. Don't eat out 2 times a week. That's $25. Because who knows when you eat out, it's $12 minimum, right? So not everybody can do that, but that's just a simple example about how all things can be done, right? With just with $100, okay? So you give me a plan. You say, Kayla, I can save $100. Kayla, I can save $500 a month, whatever that is. And I say, okay, and you're starting from scratch, right? Or even if you're starting from scratch, or that each of these buckets aren't filled. This is how we would this is a baseline of how we would prioritize that amount of money, how we would allocate that money. So 50% or the bulk of it would go into your emergency fund. Because if I put it in your retirement fund and you have an issue tomorrow, well, that's silly, right? Because now you got to pay taxes and penalties on that money to get it out. right? So we gotta make sure we front load the emergency fund, the money that you might need tomorrow. Okay, so the majority of that money is gonna go to the emergency fund until it's filled up. And then we're gonna split the other two 50-50. Now, your goal for your emergency fund was 10,000. You have $10,000 in there. We celebrate, right? We go get coffee at the lobby, right? We celebrate. Shout out to the lobby. I like that place. And then now we're going 50-50. 50% in the short term, 50% in the retirement. Your short term's filled up. Now we can put 100% in the retirement. We see we're doing it all, systematically and prioritizing what's going to happen sooner, but not neglecting the future, right? So many people neglect the future because we think it's so far away. I don't know about you, but time is flying, okay? And so the future is now, and we got to make sure that we're taking care of tomorrow and the future. Okay, any questions about that? Any questions online? I'm just leaving them speechless online, right? Okay, next slide. All right, I was talking about mutual funds, and this is where I'll go into a little more product talking because I want to leave some time for questions and answers. And we'll go into that. Hopefully this has been valuable for everybody and everybody that is watching currently and is going to watch this. So mutual funds, why I like them, I said it a little bit earlier, right? The 3 Ds of investing is number 1, discipline. We talked about discipline, right? It's not about timing the market, ING. It's about time in the market, right? I think it was Warren Buffett, the book Psychology of Money. It talks about either Warren Buffett or I think it was him or I don't think it was Bill Gates. So the book, he said he started investing at 8 years old. Right? It's time in the market now. Yes, he did acquire, more money over time, but it was time in the market. He was in the market before anyone else. And guess what? He stayed in the market. So discipline means you're investing when the market's down, and you're investing when the market's up. You're not taking it out and putting it in, because who knows, if you've studied the market, every crash has been followed by a recovery. 2001, 2002, I don't know all the numbers in my brain and it's not on here, but 2001 it recovered. I think it was a crash in 1998 or ish, something around there. It recovered. 2022 was down. It recovered. Not a couple years later, the very next year. And so if you freaked out and you took your money out, you missed out on the biggest sale possibly of your investment lifestyle. Because when the market's down, that's a sale. See, when we go to the gas station, we're excited when it's down. It should be the same way when it's investing and start being scared. Market's down, it's on sale. I can get Apple for $20 less. I'm in, right? But we don't think like that. We think the world's gonna end, right? But getting Apple, because guess what? We know Apple's gonna go back up. And when we're in the accumulation stage, let's just go to the next slide. When we're in the accumulation stage, this is where I'm gonna specify this a little bit. If you're in a growth stage, if you're in a stage when you're not taking income, see when the market's down and you're taking income, that's not good, right? That's not good. We don't want, because that's your income, right? When you're taking income, which is the farther side, one, when the market's down, that's something to be aware of. You don't want to have big roller coasters when you're taking income. Okay? So I'm not saying that for people that are in the income stage. But if you're in the growth stage and you're even 5, 10, or more years away from retirement, you can deal with some hills. And those hills are going to benefit you more than the money when the stock market always going up. Okay, the goal for when you're saving for retirement is not about the price of the market. The goal is how many shares have you accumulated, because the shares that you accumulate is more important than the price when you're growing your money. Go to the next slide. Hopefully I'm bringing out another slide right there. So I'm gonna show you an example. $100. right? 6 months, $100. The investor A is in a rising market. The price is just going up, uppity up, right? What everybody thinks they want to see, right? And if you're doing a short term investment, that's pretty cool. But when you're thinking long term, then you'll see what happens. Investor B has a fluctuating market. The market started up, but then it went down, and then it came back up. What investor does better after the 6 months? Now both investors are investing in with $100, right? Every single month. The amount of money doesn't change. But what does? So investor A, month one, the price is $10, so he buys 10 shares. Month two, the price goes up, so he buys less shares. Goes up again, and he's buying less shares, right? Not only is he buying less and less shares, but he's buying less and less shares for more money. Investor B, which is in a fluctuating market, he went through some rides, started at 10, and then it went down to 7. Oh my goodness, and then it went down to 4, and then it went down to 2, and then it started coming back up. Now look how many shares were accumulated between the two. Same amount of money, same amount of time. Now you tell me, is 126 compared to 42 a small difference or a big difference? It's a big difference because this person was willing to ride the waves. And this person was just in an up market. And we just see here, I hope you've seen the example of taking advantage and staying disciplined in those down turns of the market. Because when you're looking to accumulate shares, that when the price is down, that's a good thing. Okay, so investor B ended up paying on average $4 per share, whereas investor A paid $14 per share. I don't know if this is going over everybody's head, but this is juicy stuff to me. All right, this is juicy, right? Maybe it's because it's my job, and it's good that I get excited doing my job, right? So let's talk about. I think that's good for the slides. That's just debt, okay? We gotta pay your debt off. People say, should I pay my collections? Yes, you should pay your collections. Now, is there a thing where you can write a letter and possibly get them whatever? Yeah, you can do that. I personally never seen anyone do it, but try it. But pay your debts. You know it's your debt. Pay it. Just pay it. So I want to talk about a few things, and then I will want to leave it open for questions. Hopefully I covered a lot. A couple things I want to reiterate. And anybody have any questions right now, either on Zoom or in the room? I feel like I've been everywhere, but I feel like we've been tracking. Okay? This can be a lot of information, but I try to keep the slides very simple. Because the number thing, what people are doing in our industry right now, like I come from a different cloth when it comes to this financial industry. So what people are doing in the industry is looking to confuse people. I'm not here to confuse you. I'm here to help people. And it's really not that hard, this financial stuff, as people make it seem. I could teach you right now in 6 months, you could know exactly what I know and teach exactly what I teach. I promise you.
Can you just take a moment to explain the
debt
slide that you have up?
100%. I actually love this. So debt is the number one reason why people aren't saving, because they have a car note, they maybe have a mortgage, they have 3 credit cards, and they're paying like $2,000 into debt, and right, they feel like they can't save any money. And so debt stacking, you might have seen something similar to it, but so you have a card, 2 cards, retail card, credit card, a car loan, another card, and a mortgage, right? Here's the things to focus on. You're paying $2,700. You're paying $2,700 in debt every single month, this person, okay? And if you look at the result, without debt stacking, it's going to take you 23 years to pay it off. Because how do most people pay off their debt? They pay off the credit card, so say they're paying that $220 to the credit card. Guess what they start doing with that $220? Spending it, right? They spend it. They're like, oh, hallelujah! I paid that card off. Now I have more money to spend, right? And this is what keeps them in debt longer, right? And so it takes 23 years. If you do it like that, it's gonna take you 23 years to get out of debt. You're gonna save zero interest. You're gonna make all the banks and all the credit card companies very happy because you're paying all the interest that they anticipated you paying when you did it, because they anticipated you not knowing or doing this. So you paid over $200,000 in interest. That's a whole house to a company that you could be paying yourself for, right? And so when we apply debt stacking, look at the difference. Getting people out of debt. I've created plans for people where they're out of debt 35 years sooner than planned. It's a big deal when you apply. When you pay, if you're paying $2,700 in debt, you're gonna pay $2,700 until you're debt free. Don't stop paying that $2,700 until you're debt free. And then when you're debt free, what do you do with that $2,700? You invest it.
Generally, setting up debt stacking, you recommend people start with the highest interest debt and pay it off first and then use that for the next.
Yeah. So the question was do we do like the highest interest? So Kayla uses a system. I just put some numbers in the thing. But but the idea is that the system, the smart goal system that we have, it actually finds the best combination of stacking the money that you're spending. So it might not be the highest interest. It's looking to see what combination can we create the biggest snowball, right? So they might get the smallest amount of minimum payment out the way first to and then start creating a bigger snowball. So it's the bigger snowball that we're looking for, not necessarily the biggest interest rate we're looking for. Because when we get to that mortgage, we want the majority, or as we get closer to the mortgage, guess what? A bigger snowball is coming, right? Versus if we had started, I know the mortgage isn't typically ever going to be the highest, but imagine I hope I'm explaining it right. What I was going to say didn't make sense, but we're looking more so for the combination. It's like the brain couldn't even do it. Like the math, the way it breaks down is we're looking for the combination that's going to not only get you out of debt sooner, but also pay the least amount in interest. So it's a nice little mathematical equation. So the quick answer is not always the highest interest first. So in this debt stacking, we save this person $130,000 in interest. $130,000 interest is a big deal, right? And guess what? I didn't ask for no more money out of your pocket. You're spending $2,700 right now in debt. In my plan, I'm not gonna make you have any more money come out of your pocket. You're gonna still spend the $2,700, but we're gonna do it smart. We're gonna do it with strategy. That's gonna allow you to have more money in your pocket. And then we're going to invest it. Look, it says once you invest it, right, you would have an extra, someone say extra, an extra $2.4 million on top of your investments, right? That's a big deal. So I'll say the last thing about this. Some people argue with me after I put their little plan together, and it says that they gotta pay the credit card off first, and then they have to pay their Target thing off first, and then their car. They're like, no, I want to pay my car off first. They're like emotionally attached to paying their car off first, right? Or paying off this thing first. And I'm saying, you gotta believe me. If you pay your car off first, you're going to be paying more in interest down the road. You got to trust the system because it's smarter than both of us. I understand you want to pay your car off first, but it won't be good for you overall in your overall plan. Right? You're going to end up being in debt longer. You're going to end up paying more in interest if you do it like that. So you can't just choose based off your brain or your emotions. You got to choose based off the calculations.
And I know you said people can come to you, you can help develop a plan. Are there resources that you have seen, apps or tools online that individuals can put their debt in that can kind of give them a plan?
Yeah.
To at least kind of get an eyeball figure?
Yeah, question was, is there tools and stuff online that people can use? Short answer is yes. I don't charge anybody for these services, so I also don't know what those specific things are because I'm just as free as someone else and I actually talk, right? And speak to them. So I can't give any specific resources. I'm sorry, I will maybe look up some. But like I said, these things that we do for people are complimentary. As far as the debt stacking, as far as setting up all that stuff, is complimentary through our office. So I use my system, I use our system. But there are Google a debt stacking calculator and you'll find some stuff that you can utilize for sure. There's a lot of resources out there. I don't know, put it in ChatGPT, you'll be able to figure it out on your own. The reason why I don't recommend that could be biased because I'm an advisor, but it's so important that the plan works together. And so when we're kind of like doing pieces and DIYing little pieces, the plan typically, the puzzle, like when I was waiting for this meeting to start, I tried to do this puzzle out here. The puzzle doesn't fit, right? It just doesn't fit. You know how when you're doing a puzzle and the pieces look like they fit, but it's just a little off? You end up like that. And with your money, that's no bueno, right? That's no bueno. Because you got your debt together, but you didn't really figure out how your debt works within the whole, right? So just some highlights for everybody. If your employer matches, match the match. Everything over the match, open a Roth IRA, and utilize a Roth IRA for the additional money that you can put in. Once you maximize a Roth IRA, which is $7,500 if you're under 50, $8,600 if you're over 50 a year. Once you max it, you have no choice but to go back into a pre-tax account, right? So you either choose to go back into your 401k or you can open up a traditional IRA. Okay. But it's so important to use the Roth. We're not using the Roth enough. Most people aren't. If they have it, they're not fully funding it. They're not really utilizing it to its capacity. It has no R&Ds, right? When you're pre-tax, they make you take money out. Roth, you don't have to. You can do whatever. That's your money, right? That's your money. They're not going to take tax out anymore. Rollover IRAs. So many people leave their money at their job. If you just started working, you've been working for a while, you worked somewhere for 15 years, and then you moved and you did not move your money, please go get your money, right? Roll your money over. I don't care if it's $500, it's your $500, so you gotta go get it and reinvest it. Okay, get your money, do a rollover IRA, and make sure you do it correctly, because you can get penalized if you don't. If you're a minor or you have minor kids, grandkids, or whatever, and you want to start saving for them, some really great places to save for them is either a UTMA or a 529. I like the 529 better because you're tax deferred and tax free if they use it for education, right? If they don't use it for education, you can roll it over into a Roth IRA, which is pretty cool. That's actually pretty new. And so being able to roll that money into a Roth IRA, because people worry, what if my grandkids don't go to school, if they don't use it for college? So the 529 allows you to roll it over to a Roth IRA. The UTMA is similar, but it's a taxable account, so you're gonna pay taxes on it every single year. But it gives you the flexibility. I got your question. It gives you the flexibility to use it for whatever you want, right? For that kid to use it however you want. The other difference between the 529 and the UTMA, so we got to talk about what's best for you, is there's more control for the custodian, which is the parent or the grandparent, with the 529. That it does not go to the kid, all right? It is not. It's owned by the adult, the whole time up until 30 years old. Whereas the UTMA, once they turn 18 or 21, depending on the state, it's the kid's money. You can't have any say about it. So if that kid is kind of not ready for all that money, it's theirs now, right? So that's why some people like to have that control with the 529. Question?
Yes, with the 529, you say you roll it over to the Roth,
Yep.
tax free?
Yep, it's just like a rollover. But you can't, obviously you gotta roll it over, you gotta roll it over appropriately. So you can't say you have 30,000 in a 529, you gotta put it in incrementally, right? 7,500 this year, 7,500 next year, things like that. You can also, roll it over to a different child that might be going to school. Annuities, I know we're at time. This is an hour, right? Okay, can I say 2 more things? one more thing. Annuities, this is more so because we've been really heavy on the accumulation stage. What if you're in income stage? What if you're about to go into an income stage? All right? Pensions are going away, Social Security is decreasing. There are annuities, an annuity is a pension. It is Social Security. That's exactly what it is. Those are annuities, right? And so when people talk about bad about annuities, I mean, we all use an annuity. So pension is an annuity. You can
Okay.
slide. So the biggest thing I want to know is annuities create lifetime income, just like Social Security does, and just like your pension does. You could put a certain amount and now I'm not saying put all your money into annuities, but having annuities be a part of your income plan is very, I believe, is something to consider, right? Because it creates lifetime income and it can pass to your spouse, right? You can have beneficiaries where some pensions are on a single life, right? And you can't pass it on, it just dies with you. An annuity, you're allowed to pass that on. You're allowed to maximize your amount of money, your amount of income with the annuity and be guaranteed that money for the rest of your life and your spouse as well. So it's something to consider, right? And you can have annuities at very high risk annuities, or you can have more conservative annuities just based on your risk tolerance.
You repeat that if you run out of your amount in your annuity, does it keep going?
Yes, and the question was if your account balance in your annuity is zero, do you still get paid? Yes. Yes, right? Now you might not have you're not gonna have a death benefit, but you're gonna still have income. Right? So your beneficiaries, if your account at zero, your beneficiaries aren't gonna get anything, right? If your spouse is covered, they will still get the income, but the beneficiary side of it no longer applies. If that makes sense. Because a beneficiary would get the account balance, but if there's no account balance, there's no beneficiary, to receive it, but the income keeps going. Right? The income doesn't stop. That's huge. Really great question. Okay, I ran out of time. I hope so. Just real quick, if you want, more information, if you're here, or if you're online, you can put the interest form link online. You can say what you're interested in. We can have a phone call, or we can do the same thing here. Hopefully, that information was helpful for you. Finances is something that's very like a very you thing. So talking about your circumstances, where you are is better than having a general conversation every single day. So hopefully that was helpful for everybody. Thank you.
Right.